Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, adnastana. I should be back with you here on Points of Light Radio. I had a conversation very early this morning with my good friend and brother Owen Snowdon. You know him to be a regular contributor here. And he was telling me about a new book he's working on called Buffaloism on the Tyne. So, as I said, it was a wide-ranging conversation I had with him, as you'll see going forward, actually. A wide-ranging conversation I had with him about it. He's written some wonderful books, bless his heart, and I can't wait to share this with you because some of the things he's talked about, the history of Buffaloism. Now, we featured them this year already in different segments of Points of Light Radio. It's quite a storied organization. The more I talk with him about the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes, the more I'm seeing that it is quite a deep organization. So, let's move forward and let's go talk to our friend here. And we'll learn a lot as we go along, I promise you. Let's move.
Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
But let's move on and talk about your book called Buffaloism on the Tyne. First of all, why did you pick the Tyne?
So Buffaloism has a rich history in the Northumberland, Northeast Durham area of the United Kingdom. I picked the Tyne because the River Tyne, which is an iconic symbolism for the Northeast of England, especially Newcastle, which has a very rich history in fraternalism. Now, just to go into a bit of in-depth information about that, Buffaloism isn't the only fraternity what's been in the north of England. We've had Foresters, We've had Druids, we've had the Ancient Order of Druids, we've had Buffaloism, we've had Oddfellows, the Free Gardeners. They all existed up here, and probably many more organisations which have been out there and maybe fell onto discurity and stuff. But Newcastle, a lot of the pubs where these meetings would take place, majority of them, if they're over 150 year old, they probably had a lodge in. From my research, through looking through directories and stuff like that, I was finding out like pubs like the Black and White Garter had Foresters and Oddfellows in at one point 100 years ago. I was finding out the Duke, the pub, the Duke, they had lodges in at one point. Oddfellows, it had a very rich history. There's locations further down south near Sunderland where they have a monument in a park to the Oddfellows. Going back to Newcastle, I was once waiting to go to my grandfather's, was walking by a cemetery, and there, behold, was a Oddfellow memorial to a provincial Grand Master.
Wow.
Just sitting there in the middle of a cemetery, which I have documented on my Fraternal Masonic history page.
Now, did the Buffaloes, you're talking about this, did the Buffaloes have, I know they have send-offs for, in funerals, their own Buffalo funerals, but do they have their own headstones and so on?
Not really, to be honest. There is a national memorial in Alberton Cemetery for the RAOB. But there's not a lot of memorials. A lot of them are usually plaques or roll of honours, which are in a lot of pubs with past members on or etc. But going back to about my book, so my book's going to be basically written. It's up to 15 pages at the moment, still a work in progress. But the book will go into the bit of snippets in history that not even members up here in Northumberland, North East Durham knew about. So there's one about one of the oldest buffaloes in the world who at that time lived up in the Newcastle, and basically about how many Grand Lodge officers they've holded. There's even a list of all the lodges going back to 1945. There's probably more lodges, but I'm still working on adding things like that, because there's a lot of this information. It's hard to acquire because a lot of the lodges don't publicize it, don't make it public. A lot of them keep it private or under in minute books and stuff, and you never can get access to it. So it's when a lot of the times lodge rooms or rooms where they've been storing a lot of items have been kept, and I come by and I'm like, well, it could be costing the province money to store that stuff. Why don't you pass it on to someone who could use that to help benefit the order and also to benefit oneself on knowledge? So that's how I've acquired a lot of minute books through that means.
And I think you'll agree with me. And one of the problems as well is it's been, some of this is old stuff. Some of when lodges closed and so on are moved, the minutes were lost or not properly written down, for that matter. That still happens today, where minutes are not properly.
See, a lot of the times as well, it's got, with modern day technology, like we were discussing previous, the problem with that is as well, and this is where it can be a double-edged sword. Yes, it's good for virtual links and stuff like that, but when it comes to sectorial minutes and stuff, they no longer, a lot of the time, use the old lodger books, these beautiful old lodger books where they would handwrite everything what went on in the lodge meeting, and it's such a shame to lose such an important aspect of fraternalism, because these minute books hold knowledge from what forefathers did, or what they did in these lodge meetings, what they wanted to get up to, what they had planned, if they had a visit to another province, another lodge, or if they were having some centenary anniversary, or if a noticeable member had achieved grand rank or something like that, and it's a shame to see some lodge minutes just the cash account, the minutes of the previous meeting, and that's it. And then any other business or any correspondence. It would be nice for them to maybe look at some of their old minute books and maybe read a segment through to get for the members who are interested in that stuff, so they can learn what the older members or the forefathers got up to in their lodges. I written on one of them, the Shakespeare 35, one of my books, the history of Shakespeare 35 Lodge. They lodge, I have a few minutes from them, and they used to argue, and they were arguing in the lodge about where to dine for the lodge meal or something. And one of them turns to them and they go, "Oh, you're a buffalo." He says, "Oh, that place, the Fox and Hounds, too much food. And he goes, No, you're buffalo. You're supposed to have a big belly."
Yeah. And do you find like when you're going through some of these books, like, do you find sometimes it's hard to read, that maybe they were written in Old English or whatever? Do you find that?
Totally. Some of them, the handwritings are beautiful, and so beautiful you can't even read it because it's so like a cursive, it's so joined up and all that, and it's hard to translate it. And yeah.
Do you find though, as well, what's the oldest one you've read through so far? The oldest minute book?
The oldest minute book, probably 1880.
Yeah. But it dates back even further than that, doesn't it? As far as the...
Oh yeah. These organizations, some of them are older than people make them out to be. On one of my books, The Mystic Origins of the RAOB, I discuss a theory that the Buffalo organizations were created, are older than, when they say the Grand Lodge of England was formed. These organizations could possibly go back as far as like the ancient Roman bull cults, stuff like that. They could have trickled down from them. Just look, for an example of that, just look at Freemasonry, stonemasons came from medieval stone guilds, so there is that possibility of that theory being relevant.
Yeah, or the Orange. Like I said, there were Orange societies within England and Europe long before the Orange Lodge was officially formed.
Oh, totally. Not many
know.
know, but most British regiments in the British Army had an Orange Order Lodge.
Yes, absolutely.
Things like that. It's remarkable, and it's fascinating, the history of these organizations. And a lot of the time, people don't realize how massive scale their history is within these organizations. People, because they're very kept within the lodge. So, it's never really publicized. For example, the RAOB, when the POW Association, I might be getting that name wrong, during the Second World War, there was lodges in Japan within the POW camps. And within those camps, they made like their Chamberlain collars out of Gordon Highlander kilts and all that, but their parchments weren't the same as our parchments. Which is a like identification card, which is made on pigskin.
Yeah.
But the parchments they had were very different, as they would have like little Japanese katanas going through and red floor horns. They were really ornate. But up to, I believe, 1950 or 1960, the POW Association, which is like for prisoner of war associations, they didn't realize there was lodges in Japan that were operating in POW camps.
Now, I think we all know that the Orange are basically forming a research lodge, which I think I can't believe it's been this long, but they're finally doing it. This lodge number 1 that you informed me about. Do you think the RAOB, or do they have a research lodge, or should they be forming one soon? Because based on this research you're doing, I mean, it'd be great to have that.
Now, yes, the RAOB did have, in the Centre Research Society, called the League of Light.
Okay.
And it's completely extinct now, but I do hold a few of their jewels within my collection. But the problem with that was the theory of it was it collapsed due to not that much interest in it. But the League of Lights was an esoteric side order within the RAOB, which wanted to move away from the social drinking side of it and make it more into like Freemasonry, where it was more ceremonial. There was more talk of immortality, stuff like that, to do with the occult. But it never lasted long. But I do hope one day to rekindle that side order, because it is an important aspect of Buffaloism.
At least for the research part of it. Because
Totally.
I believe that these orders do need research lodges. It is a big part of keeping them relevant, keeping them grounded. I do believe that.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that. I think if like this lodge number 1 that you told me about in the Orangism, if it does what I think it could do, it could really help ground the Orange and move it forward. And same with the RAOB. I think it is time that maybe that's something you should start doing. Like within it is trying to form a proper research lodge, because it would be wonderful.
Yeah.
A place for people to go and learn a bit about the order.
I do know that lodge, the Orange Lodge we're on about, they have reached over 100 members now.
They have.
So
I joined it.
There has been a massive interest in it. But the societies like the Apprentice Boys of Derry, they have a lodge of research, which I am a member of. Yeah, they have a lodge of research.
Well, it's time, maybe, like I said, this is something we can do, is get a campaign going to get the RAOB their own research lodge, because I think it's a real sign of things moving forward.
Oh, totally. Because there is history there, Like, just look during the First World War, the war ambulances, and the Second World War, again, war ambulances. Even into modern days with the Ukrainian war and stuff, they did donate so much money towards getting, I believe, 2 ambulances used for humanitarian efforts in the Ukraine.
But simply also to really come up with some sort of a library system for like this stuff that you're talking about in this Buffaloism on the Tyne, to preserve some of this history, this wonderful history that you're gradually uncovering as you're going through this, right?
Yeah.
And you find though, like I said, as you're going through, you really do sense that history in it as you read through it.
You feel the history of it while reading through it. You can tell the difference with the days of old and modern day Buffaloism, because even down to how many brethren were present in that lodge. Back in the old days, you would have maybe 40, 50 strong. Nowadays, you've got
at a meeting.
Oh yeah, it was massive. The stories that are from old timers who've told us there was times where lodges would turn up and there was that many of them. Some would sign in, and then they would spend a half an hour, and then they would leave, and then the next part of the lodge would come back in, so that they could actually fit enough members in. And the minute these registration books would fly through them because of that. There's a famous account in Sunderland where that happened, in the Shakespeare, in a lodge called the Shakespeare, which had like 100 members at one point.
Wow!
But it's a shame it's not like that nowadays. But I think it would be a bit crowded.
I think it would be a
good
bit
and
crowded.
bad.
And I think we would. I do think it would be crowded. I do think they would. They'd have to start organizing different days of the week or something, the way we do it now. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I still think though we could still have that kind of. We could still keep our influence, in modern times as well with this sort of thing. I really do.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, Brother Snowdon, I appreciate your time today. All the best to you. I look forward to seeing this new book of yours. When do you expect to have it published?
In the next 2 months, once it should be ready. That's when it should be ready. In the next 2 months. That should be my 8th book, which I'm very proud to have said and have created.
Where can people purchase it?
Basically, you contact me through my Fraternal Masonic History page, and just basically send us an email. I'm interested in buying the books. You pay through PayPal, and then I send you the books. It's all e-books. As again, moving on with modern technology, I am looking to eventually do a hardback. Once I hit that 10-mark book, I'll probably create the RAOB Codex, where it'll be a volume 1, and then after the next, because I'm going to keep writing these books until my fingers bleed.
Okay. Thank you for your time today, sir.
No problem. Thank you.
My brother. I love that guy. Love having him on here. I also love his passion for preserving that history of the RAOB. I can only just imagine what he's the sense of history, like we talked about, what he's seeing, and as he goes through these minutes of these meetings from way back. I can just imagine, right? Right, and I personally, this is on a personal level, I believe that the RAOB and other organizations really do suffer from not having a research lodge. Right? Research lodges, they help preserve the history and help brothers, deepen their understanding of these organizations like Buffaloism. It really does. Right? Other organizations such as the Freemasons, have had research lodges and libraries going back decades. Right? Why is it that we're only getting to this now? As you've seen, like Loyal Orange Lodge number 1 in Great Britain has I'm happy to see that some are waking up to the need for research lodges, right? They're forming one there with Loyal Orange Lodge number 1. Now it's time for the RAOB to do the same. And if you're in the RAOB, if you're at Buffalo, let's try to move this idea, this whole project forward. Let's do it. He talked about the League of Light. Let's talk about maybe trying to resurrect that. And, like I said, just going forward. right? Right. This was part of a much larger conversation I had with Brother Snowdon. I've chosen to make 2 segments out of it simply because I really want to focus on this particular book that he's doing. I'm going to leave a link in the details section of this podcast so that you can go there, buy his book. I know I'm going to. It's supposed to come out around July of this year, right? And let's support this project. Let's really do that, right? I keep saying, I think it's wonderful. But that's all. I'm going to leave it there for now, brothers and sisters. Before I go, I want to draw your attention to the detail section of this podcast, that you can see the link to my PayPal account. You can hit on that link, make a voluntary donation to the podcast. We will use that to move Points of Light Radio forward. This podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. I also welcome your comments and input. My Facebook page, you can see the link to my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio. My Bluesky handle is at PO Light Radio.bsky.social. You can see the link to my Spotify channel, as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, until we meet again, just step into the light.